All right, well, we are now live here on YouTube. Should take a few seconds to get going. I'm sure some notifications are going out, but this video here, I'm MikeO. I'm joined by Wesker Griff, Charlie, which you don't really have a YouTube channel for people to go check out, so I guess that part's irrelevant. Ed's channel is Wesker Griff, and then we've got Ray from Philly. He's joining us via the worldwide satellite, and you can check out his channel, Ray from Philly. We're all sports card collectors, and we're all Phillies fans in the Philadelphia area, so we're going to preview and talk about the 2019 Phillies season a little bit. Hopefully we get some people to join in. If so, we'll try and answer a few questions during the course of it, but basically we just want to get this thing done live, do our part, and we'll have some fun with it, talk a little bit about baseball. I know we're all excited, so we're giving it a few minutes here. We got a few people popping in. Bob Lewis has popped in. We've got
Bob Lewis.
Woody Warren as well, so happy to have those guys in. But anyway, make sure I stay in frame here. The 2019 Philly season, which starts in just a few days, it's got to be one of the most anticipated seasons in years. The Phils have had a few rough years, and they've been building towards this past offseason, which was supposed to be the big free agent class. The free agent class maybe wasn't as big as people anticipated 5 years ago. Of course, we did have Bryce Harper and Manny Machado, the two big guys, but you had Jose Fernandez, who, as everyone knows, passed away a few years ago. He was supposed to be in part of this class. Clayton Kershaw was a possibility before he re-signed. Andrew McCutchen, who the Phillies did acquire, obviously has fallen off a little bit. Still a fantastic player, but not quite the dynamic young guy he was when he came up. But this was a season that the Phillies were building up, the offseason, that they were looking to really make their big splash. And they did make a big splash, which, of course, we're all excited about. And they made a bunch of trades. Now that we have a few people in here, we'll get started. We'll do a quick introduction. Again, I'm MikeO.
How's it going, YouTube? My name is Charlie510. I'm Wesker Griff, Eddie's older brother. Thank you for checking in, and I can't wait to talk about the Philadelphia Phillies with all you guys that are watching right now.
Yeah, I'm Wesker Griff, and looking forward to talking about the Phillies with Mike, Ray, and my brother Charlie. So we did a video about this last year on Mike's baseball vlog channel, and we were pretty spot on a lot of things we said. So I'm hoping this year that we are spot on again. So I'll give it back to Mike.
I'll respond to Ed's deal. The whole spot on thing, I mean, depending on what people say, that's how I'll decide if I hope we're spot on. If someone picks them to win 73 games, I hope they're extremely incorrect. But Ray, you're joining us via the worldwide satellite. I was trying to say something clever. You're joining us via Facebook Messenger chat. So say hello to everyone.
What's going on? How you doing, YouTube? What's going on, guys?
Think everyone's doing okay. Den1013 is here. As we predicted a few moments ago, he's here. And he's rolling his eyes via emojis. But don't let him fool you. He is a huge Phillies fan, and I'm pretty sure he's been anticipating this video since the season concluded last year. So let's just get started talking about the 2019 Phillies and the additions and just provide some thoughts. Ray, we'll let you start. Give us your thought on the first acquisition the Phillies made this offseason where they acquired Jean Segura. They picked him up from the Seattle Mariners. They unloaded J.P. Crawford and Carlos Santana. They brought aboard Segura to kind of boost the infield, stabilize the defense a little bit, and, of course, provide some offense where they really lacked last year at shortstop. So your thoughts on the Segura pickup?
Yeah, I thought it was a good signing. Jean Segura definitely stabilizes the shortstop position. Also gives a nice higher batting average at that position. He gives a 300 hitter. He's an all-star. And he will definitely spark the top of the lineup, is expected to be a leadoff hitter. So he does a little bit of everything. He can hit for average. He has a little bit of pop. He has a very good glove, something the Phillies had been missing at that position for the past few years, since Jimmy Rollins left. And I think Gene Segura, the Philly fans are going to be very, very pleased at that signing of Gene Segura. He's a very good player, and I expect to see really good things from him this year.
And the Phillies really didn't waste a whole lot of time in free agency. They made one of the few signings that took place during the winter meetings, which were very slow this year. Obviously, free agency in general, extremely slow and tough. And if you were a team that was interested in a player, or if you were a fan of one of those teams, it was a chore to get through. But the Phillies did make a signing. They signed Andrew McCutchen, former National League MVP. So I want to get Charlie's thoughts on Andrew McCutchen being brought aboard.
As the Phillies decided to go get Andrew McCutchen, he's a player with a track record. He's a player that's been on a couple teams now. Last year with the Yankees and obviously with the Giants. He's an older outfielder, most likely past his prime. But with that said, I still think that he can provide a 20 home run season for the Phillies, and I think they would take that. I'm thinking maybe 280 for Andrew McCutchen. I like the move. We'll have to see how this move pans out in the second year and the third year, but for right now, I'm okay with Andrew McCutchen. I actually think he's going to have a pretty good year for the Phils. Most likely, he will hit leadoff. So I'm pretty optimistic about Andrew McCutchen. There's a track record there, and I like that veteran presence that the Phillies will have with Andrew McCutchen. I'm thinking pretty good things about him. So 280 and 20-plus home runs, that's what I'm thinking with Andrew McCutchen.
So I think the other thing that McCutchen provides is some experience on upcoming teams. He was with that Pirates team that finally got over the hump and reached the 500 mark after like a decade plus of trying just to play 500 baseball. Of course, they reached the postseason a few times. I think that helps. I think they needed some veteran presence in the clubhouse. It's been documented. They've had some issues in the clubhouse last year, which we don't need to go crazy on, but just going through some of these monster acquisitions. I mean, it's just loaded with big-time acquisitions this year. So JT Realmuto was another one. He was pretty late in the offseason. The Phillies were attached to him to a very small degree during the course of the offseason as it went along, but you'd hear about a bunch of teams that were interested, and of course teams are going to be interested in Realmuto, who has really excelled over the last few years, both behind the plate and at the plate. And so we want to get Ed's thoughts on the acquisition of Realmuto, where the Phillies did give up a little bit there. They gave up Jorge Alfaro, who I know Ed's not a huge fan of. I personally like his upside still. He has a cannon for an arm. He has tremendous power. And, we'll see how he develops. He certainly has development to do. I think he's a perfect addition to a Marlins team because the Marlins obviously have a lot of building to do. And you have that blue chip prospect who could be a crapshoot. He's a starting pitcher, but he's definitely has the ability to be a superstar. So let's get Ed's thoughts on the acquisition of JT Realmuto.
Well, going into this offseason, Realmuto was one of the guys that I really wanted to see the Phillies go after and pursue via the trade market. I don't think they gave up too much for him. I'm not really a big believer in Jorge Alfaro. I was last season. I really thought he could have been a good piece for us. But last year, he struggled defensively so poorly. And the way that he was calling games, he does have a cannon for an arm, and he does have the offensive capabilities, but the Phillies need somebody more stable behind home plate, and I think JT Realmuto definitely gives them that aspect. Also, JT Realmuto is very, very good offensively. He's a stable bat in the lineup. He's an on-base machine. Catcher around the league in the National League and also to an extent in the American League is not really a position where you see a lot of offensive abilities from that position. So to see JT Realmuto on the Phillies, being one of the premier offensive players in the league. I'm really happy about that. So that should stabilize the Phillies lineup a lot more, because they really did not get anything last year out of the catcher slot with Jorge Alfaro and also Ray's favorite, Andrew Knapp. They really, really struggled at the catching spot defensively and offensively last year. So this is a massive upgrade for the Phillies at the catching spot, and I'm excited that they got him. So I'll give it back to Mike.
Yeah, Realmuto could be he could be huge. I was definitely happy to see them get him. I just didn't know that it would happen. A lot of people in the comments have mentioned, hey, Marlins usually excel when they get out of Miami. Let's hope that happens once again. Realmuto, if he continues to progress the way he has, could be, a possible MVP candidate if he can continue to improve and play well. He's crushed the ball during spring training, so it will be really, really interesting to see what happens. For those interacting, feel free to hit the thumbs up if you like it. I see we're a solid 1 thumbs down, so we got a Mets fan in the house.
Denny.
Oh, yeah, it's probably Denny. And feel free to send a few questions. Feel free to send them multiple times, because we're going to kind of go through it and then get to some questions at some point. But, of course, the biggest acquisition, the acquisition that a lot of people recognize the Phillies for, is the acquisition, the signing of Bryce Harper to a massive 13-year, $330 million contract. People who aren't necessarily huge baseball fans or don't follow the team might think that Harper was the only addition, and he's just one of many additions. The Phillies have made other additions as well, like David Robertson. So they added, I think, 5 former All-Stars to the roster this offseason. So tons and tons of upgrades. And I was excited for it. We might all have different thoughts. We're going to let Ray get his thoughts. Ray had some ups and downs, because we were all conversing through messages during the course of this offseason, because you had so many ups and downs with the way free agency went. You had rumors, you had all the fake news reports, you had all kinds of stuff blowing through. So, Ray, I know there were times where it seemed like you were excited for Bryce Harper, and there were other times where you were kind of anti-Harper. So at this point, now that we're a couple days away from the season beginning, the Phillies have Harper locked up. It's not going to affect future free agency, because it seems like every big free agent other than Mookie Betts in the next couple of years is re-signed. So what are your current thoughts on the Bryce Harper acquisition?
Well, at first I wasn't. I didn't think it was a top priority that we would go after Bryce Harper. But after I see how they worked out and structured the deal, I'm okay with it now. But at the beginning, I felt like they added enough offense with Segura, with Realmuto, with McCutchen, that they had other issues that they needed to address. To me, he's a great player, and he's going to help Rhys Hoskins out in the batting order, no doubt about it. But I had some concerns with, I didn't want to be overpaying somebody with, basically, when he first started, he was a 5-tool player, and the last couple of years was kind of a two-tool player with just homers and RBIs, and didn't do much of anything. He was kind of a detriment in the outfield defensively. His average has constantly dropped. They've done a shift on him. I know last year at the second half of the season, he did adjust to the shift and got his average up to 249, which, it's not great to pay someone for 13 years and have a 249 average. Be that as it may, the contract worked out really well. I would have liked to have seen him address other areas, because I felt like they had enough offense with the 3 guys that they acquired, like I said, in McCutchen and Realmuto and Segura, like going after another starting pitcher, like bolstering up the bullpen a little bit more. Obviously, this move was, I think, more of a box office move because of the name and the sell tickets. But he will help Hoskins out in the batting lineup. I do expect Hoskins to have an MVP type of caliber year because of that. Be that as it may, I'm hoping to see Harper adjust again to the shift, because we are going to see a lot of the shift. And if I could see him get his average up to 260, 265, he's going to hit a lot of homers. We all know that. He's playing in Citizens Bank Ballpark. He's going to hit 35 to 40 homers in this ballpark, no doubt about it. I just, and I'm glad they added him. I think he's definitely added a lot of excitement to the city, to the town. Fans are going nuts. I just felt like maybe they could have addressed it with getting another pitcher in Keuchel, and bolstering the closer in Kimbrel or somebody, because right now the pitching staff is it has holes in it. So I'm excited to see him in the lineup because the lineup is stacked with him in there. He's going to have a lot of power, and a lot of people are going to be in the seats. And I guess that's what the Phillies were aiming for more so, was to, get some fannies in the seats. But I'm excited for him. I think he's going to bring, a lot of high run scoring games to this lineup. So we'll see. I'm glad the contract worked out well. It wasn't overpaying, 35, 40 million a year for 8 to 10 years, where we were going to be stifled in signing guys like Hoskins later on and Realmuto. So the contract at 25 million, which is what I think it averages to in this market, is actually a steal. So I was okay with that then.
Yeah, I agree. When I heard they signed him and I saw 330 million, I assumed it was 10 years and 33 per year. So when I heard 13 years and 330, I was like, okay, that's like 3 free years basically. I mean, 25 a year for a player of his caliber and his ability really isn't bad. We saw what Trout got, and we understand Trout is better, much better. Trout, one of the greatest of all time at this point in his career, but you weren't going to have that opportunity to get Mike Trout, which is something that I kind of worried about all along. I know some fans were like, oh, wait for Trout. I'm like, you can't wait for a guy that may never get there. Arenado re-signed. You're seeing all these guys re-sign. And, of course, Harper provides some left-handed power. He provides all the offense and stuff that they need it desperately. If you look back on last year, their biggest problem for the full season was really their offense really struggled. They had awful team average and just did not score enough runs. The pitching staff was surprisingly good in general, but they did need that star power. That star power was really important. They needed to get the juices back in the city. They need to get fans in the stadium. They need to start selling stuff. They needed all that star power. They needed, that was part of what they needed to get the team going, to really rejuvenate. I can't even speak. Get the fan base going, because the Phillies had a really strong 3/4 of a season last year and nobody really showed up. No one believed. Last year was an odd year, but I want to give these two guys behind me both a chance to give their thoughts on the Harper signing, because obviously it was the biggest signing I'm sure they've ever witnessed. I mean, we've had some big ones over the years, but that was pretty huge. So let's get your brief thoughts, guys.
I think quoting the obvious here, but anytime you get a chance to get a superstar caliber player like Bryce Harper on your team, it obviously is a big boost in confidence. And you know what? Bryce Harper will make the other players better too. We have a guy like Rhys Hoskins who will be hidden behind him. We should see an uptick in numbers for him if he is healthy. Harper is somebody who has fantastic numbers at Citizen Bank Park. I don't know if anyone touched up on that, but if you look at his statistics at Citizen Bank Park, they are very, very good. I'm a fan of the signing. I think it was a move that needed to be made. He's 26 years old. He'll be coming into his prime. He still has a lot of great baseball left, and I think it's really going to be something to see what he does in a Phillies uniform. Hopefully, in a perfect world, Bryce has a great year and can really cause some excitement here at Citizen Bank Park and for the Phillies. So hopefully everything works out. Ed?
I absolutely love the Bryce Harper signing. Mike, Ray, and Charlie can even attest to it. the entire offseason, I really wanted Harper out of the whole Machado Harper scenario because the Phillies were linked to both of the guys, and there was rumors out there if they would get both of them or they'll maybe prefer one or the other. So I was really hoping that if they decided to go after one, they would go after Harper. And after the Trout extension, I love the deal even more. If you're not from Philadelphia, you might not know, but the city is smitten by Mike Trout, and there was a very vocal majority of the fan base, especially on like sports radio around here, that wanted the Phillies to not make any moves at all and to wait for Trout to sign him. And obviously, Mike Trout signed that mega extension for more money, and rightfully so. He's worth it because he's the best player in baseball. But he's off the market now, and you're seeing a lot of teams extending their players. Nolan Arenado got extended, Paul Goldschmidt, so a lot of premier players, Alex Bregman, a lot of great players are being extended on teams. So the free agent classes coming up are going to be pretty thin, and I think for the years they got him for 13 years. The money makes sense. They're going to be paying him more in his prime years and less when he's older. So the structure of the deal is really good. They got a star player on their team. We really needed it. We don't have a lot of outfield prospects in our farm system who are projected to be a star level player. So the Phillies did absolutely fantastic to bring him on the team, and we'll see what Harper does. I'll view the contract as a complete success if we get a World Series to Philadelphia. If Harper's part of a team that brings a World Series here, the deal will be worth every single penny. So, so that's pretty much my thoughts on it. Right now, in March of 2019, I absolutely love the deal. So I'll give it back to Mike.
Last year, this was a little easier because we just recorded it all in front of the camera. But we couldn't make that happen this year, so we decided to do it live, and that's why we're handing the camera back and forth and doing what we can to make it happen. But we're all excited. We're thrilled for this upcoming season. I mean, I'm excited for every baseball season. The Phillies could be projected to be a 55-win team or a 100-win team. I'm going to be fired up because I'm a fan of baseball in general. I'm excited to see every team play. But, of course, there's that special place in your heart for the Phillies. So I'm excited to get out to Citizens Bank Park this year. I'm excited to meet up with these guys at a game at some point. Just can't wait for Thursday. It's going to be awesome. But the Harper thing, just to kind of conclude some thoughts on specifically Harper, you got to remember you're getting a 26-year-old. 26-year-olds do not become free agents every year, and it's trending towards that kind of continuing because we're seeing all these extensions, guys. Eloy Jimenez getting an 8-year deal before he even steps in a batter's box in a major league game. So I think it was a must-do deal for the Phillies. And it's not just about this year. Obviously, you want to try and win this year with these additions, but you're looking to win in the next few years. You've got JT Realmuto here for at least 2 years before he becomes a free agent. I'm sure they're going to work on trying to extend him, but we want to get some thoughts in general around the team. If you look at this lineup, it is stacked. Rhys Hoskins moves to first base, which is huge for the Phillies this year. Should help the defense a little bit, should make Hoskins a little more comfortable, so that's good. We still have Cesar Hernandez at second base. Everyone's got different thoughts on him. Hernandez played hurt last year. He does have some ability. Shortstop Segura is an upgrade. Maikel Franco, who we all get frustrated with. We've all mentioned it in our videos over the years. Franco's one of those guys who was deemed a potential superstar, at least an all-star caliber player. He hasn't quite lived up to that. But if you drop him down to the 8 hole and he gives you 25 home runs and hits 270, sign up for that any day. Of course, Realmuto, we've already gone over this, improves offensively and defensively behind the plate. Now your outfield consists of Bryce Harper, Odubel Herrera, who's now a 7-hole hitter who you were relying on to hit in like the 3-hole over the last couple years, and your left fielder, Andrew McCutchen. And Herrera's a guy who, he's got the potential to hit 315 and 20 home runs. Unfortunately, he has a 2-cent brain sometimes or gets bored and issues like that. But again, if you're not relying on him to be a star, that improves. We'll see how the bench goes. Nick Williams, if he remains on the team, it's going to be interesting. He's either going to be a key piece off the bench or possibly a trade chip, because we've talked about the pitching staff a little bit, and I'm actually fine with the starting staff they've gone into the season with. Nola, if he can continue to build on what he did last year, is an absolute stud. Arrieta has looked really good at times during spring training. He's not going to give you the $25 million a year performance that people may expect, but if he can be solid and better than last year, that would be good. People have asked about Nick Pivetta. Nick Pivetta is like a darling this year. Everyone thinks he's going to have this breakout year. I'm hoping he does. If Nick Pivetta has a breakout 15, 16 win season, things are looking really good for the Phillies, but we'll see if that happens. And then you have Zach Eflin and Velasquez, two guys who have talent, but if they can build up a little bit on what they did last year, then you actually have a solid 5-starting rotation, and you have the ability to make acquisitions in the offseason. So, we'll see what happens with the rotation. The bullpen is pretty deep. They don't have that dominant closer that some would like to see, but they really have a solid group overall. So I'm just going to ask these guys a few questions. We'll give Ed a shot first to kind of give his quick thoughts on whether you're fine with this rotation as it stands now. Would you rather see an addition now, or are you fine with kind of seeing how it develops and then make an in-season addition?
Well, I'm assuming an addition now, you're talking about Dallas Keuchel, and no, I wouldn't like to see the Phillies go after him because you have to give up a first-round draft pick to sign him, so that's off the table. I think it's definitely, for me, it's a wait-and-see approach. I think with the Phillies rotation, you have Aaron Nola, you have that ace. He had an absolutely tremendous breakout season last year, was definitely in the Cy Young contention all the way to September, and got edged out by Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer, both of two pitchers which he did beat in September, I believe. So Aaron Nola was fantastic last year, but the problem with the Phillies rotation is after Aaron Nola, it's a steep, you're going off a steep drop-off, and a lot of people are really big on Nick Pivetta this year. I know, for fantasy baseball purposes, he was ranked pretty high on Yahoo and ESPN. I really hope that they're right. The prognosticators are right on Nick Pivetta because he has shown glimpses of it last year where he can really, really turn in some really solid performances, but we'll have to see if he can be consistent this year. Zach Eflin, I was a little surprised he made the rotation over Eichhoff. I was talking about this with Mike recently, but Eflin's another guy where he'll have starts where he looks absolutely fantastic, and then other starts where he can't even get out of the second inning and he gave up 6 runs. So it's all about consistency with these young guys, Pivetta and Eflin. And then Vince Velasquez, he's another guy with tremendous stuff, but consistency's been an issue with him. He always has high, jacked up pitch counts, and he struggles to put batters away. Now, one guy I didn't mention is Jake Arrieta, and Mike and Ray know. Out of all the Phillies, out of every single Philly, Jake Arrieta is the guy that I least like. I just don't really like his arrogant demeanor, and the Phillies are paying him a lot of money. So when you get paid a good deal of money, I expect you to perform. And Jake Arrieta did not really have a great season last year. I didn't appreciate him throwing Scott Kingery under the bus in the middle of the season last year. That was not cool. But I'm hoping this year he turns it around, goes out there, puts up consistent numbers. I understand you're going to have a couple bad starts here and there. Everyone goes through a slump. Everyone goes through bad starts in baseball. But Jake Arrieta, I hold him to a higher standard than I would as Zach Eflin or Nick Pivetta or Vince Velasquez. He should be going out there every 5th day, and he should be getting at least 10 to 15 wins this year for the team. So if he doesn't even crack that, I'm going to be extremely agitated because he's getting paid premier money, and he has a demeanor about him. So he should be producing for the Phillies. So hopefully he does that this year. But that's my thoughts on the rotation. Do you want me to talk about the bullpen a little bit?
You can give a quick thought too.
All right, the bullpen, I do like what the Phillies did in the offseason with the bullpen. David Robinson was a fantastic addition, so they definitely signed one of the best AL relief pitchers. Sir Anthony Dominguez, he's good. So the back end of the bullpen's real good. The question marks lie more with the middle relief with Tommy Hunter, Ramos, and I think they sent down Arano. So Arano had like a 7 ERA or something like that in spring training. Yeah, so he got sent down. So the Phillies, their back end of the bullpen's fine. It's going to be questions about the middle relief. And for the love of God, Adam Morgan, if he has another crap year this year, send his butt to Lakewood, and I never want to see him again, man. Send him away. But that's all I got for you on the bullpen.
All right, we'll give Ray a shot. I know Ray has at times won at Craig Kimbrell. He's won at Dallas Keuchel. Do you would you still like to see those guys at it at this point in the year, knowing that they probably wouldn't be ready until May, and they both do require compensation? You'd have to forfeit a draft pick to sign these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? I mean, I don't have the tremendous faith in this starting rotation. The Phillies have Nola, and to me, that's it. I'm not a fan of Pivetta. He's a wait and see. To put pressure, he had his first full year last year. This is going to be his second time around facing major league hitting, and to put him up at number 2, I'm not saying he's going to be bad. I'm not saying he's going to be good. He's a wait and see. But you have an unproven number 2. 15 wins for me is totally unrealistic for Pivetta. Arrieta is mediocre at best. He's a 10-10 pitcher. He's your number 3. He had one good year with the Cubs. After that, he's been downhill. After that, Velasquez, he can't get past the 4th or 5th inning. Zach Eflin is average at best. So if they
These
were
guys
in any
behind me
other
can't
division,
hear what Ray's saying right now, just due to our technical setup. But just so you guys know, Ray's agitated. He doesn't like this rotation after Aaron Nola.
I really when you have this team in another division, if they were in the NL West or the AL Central or the AL West, I would be fine. But when you're in a division with 2 other teams in your division that have way better starting rotation, and I'm talking about the Mets and the Nationals, it's going to be really hard to compete. Nola is proven to be, he's made a huge step up. But again, Nick Pivetta is a wait and see. I hope he does well. I liked what he's shown a little bit. Arrieta, I'm not thrilled with Arrieta. Velasquez is inconsistent, and Eflin is unproven. So there's a lot of holes. There's a lot of question marks with the starting rotation. The bullpen, Adam Morgan is your only left-handed pitcher coming out of the bullpen. And I agree with Ed. He shouldn't even be on a roster right now. Adam Morgan is awful.
Hey, Adam Morgan grows a really nice beard, so you got to say something positive about the guy. Doesn't mean he can get anyone out, but at least he can grow a beard.
He can grow a beard, yeah. Sir Anthony Dominguez showed last year that he has some really good stuff, so I think he could be a good setup man. But David Robinson was a nice acquisition, but I don't think he's a proven legit closer. He might be somewhere around 17th, 18th ranked closer or something like that. It is an upgrade, but you don't have. I mean, I'd rather have seen him go for Keuchel. You need a number 2 pitcher. You don't have it, and you need a legitimate closer for this bullpen. The pitching is key. Pitching and defense is key, and it's going to be really scary after Nola. You can't outscore everybody 10-8 every night. The offense is going to be legit. The offense, I wouldn't be surprised if the offense is top 3 in the National League. It probably will be. But the pitching is going to be key. There's going to be points where even this lineup's going to hit lulls. And without having a 15-game winner at number 2 and like a Keuchel, maybe they pick up Madison Bumgarner at the trade deadline. That's a good improvement right there. He's got great proven playoff experience with the Giants. So maybe they'll pick him up. If it depends on where they're at in July. If they feel they're going to make the playoffs, maybe they pick up Madison Bumgarner for the playoff push. We'll see. But no, I have some concerns after Nola. It'll be interesting.
There's certainly no one proven beyond Nola, really, for sure. But my problem with Kimbrel and Keuchel is I just see Dallas Keuchel as Jake Arrieta 2.0. He's really, it's not like he's had 5 great years. He's had a Cy Young type of year, and he's had some off years. He really wasn't fantastic last year. And Craig Kimbrel, obviously I would take him on a short-term deal if you can get him, but I really think when he's looking for 4, 5, 6 years, that's another Jonathan Papelbon. He might not be Jonathan Papelbon the person, but you're going to get some success out of him. But the Boston Red Sox really didn't seem like they had a ton of faith in him in the postseason last year. And the other issue with signing those guys is that gets you up towards the luxury tax, where it's a little harder to make moves in season. By not signing these guys, now you have that ability. If Madison Bumgarner or another pitcher becomes available, you have more flexibility. But we want to let Charlie get some thoughts in on the pitching before we move on.
I heard Ray had some issues with the pitching. I'm going to jump on that. Arrieta, God, probably one of the most overrated pitchers in Major League Baseball. So that's just my thoughts on that. Vince Velasquez is awful hot garbage. He's a guy that's been here for 3-4 years now. Every year, everyone's like, he's got great stuff. He can't get past the fifth. Once he gets to the 5th inning, he falls apart. Who cares that he strikes out 8 batters? He's not a consistent enough pitcher. So really, I just want to be done with him. Eflin, he's an enigma. Kind of like what Ed said. Sometimes you'll get something good. Sometimes you'll get something bad. Pivetta, I'm going to stay positive on Pivetta. I think there could be maybe something there. So I'll stay positive on him. But the Phillies better hope that Aaron Nola stays healthy, because if Aaron Nola goes down, I don't know what to tell you, because I'm not high on Arrieta, and I will say there's a kid in the minors, Cole Irvin, who I see as somebody who might be something one of these days. He's very close. He'll be in AAA this year, but he could get a call up. The bullpen, I see 2 arms, and that's about it. Pat Neshek, he doesn't really want to pitch. He only wants to pitch one day. He can't pitch back-to-back. I guess he's too busy in the clubhouse trying to collect baseball cards. But what else? Sir Anthony Dominguez, he's a solid arm, but will Gabe Kapler use him up? I think I read something on thoughts on Hector Neris. Who knows at this point? He's another guy that is extremely inconsistent. He comes up, he comes down. David Robertson should be fine. This is a veteran with a track record, so I have no issues there. Tommy Hunter, he throws up meatballs. I don't want to see that guy again. He can go straight to the abyss. Yeah. So I'm kind of like with Ray a little bit. I'm not too high on the bullpen, and the starting rotation is pretty much whatever. Other than Aaron Nola and Pivetta, I see question marks with Arrieta. I see question marks with Eflin. I see question marks with Vince Velasquez. In fact, I'll make a bold prediction. Vince Velasquez will be out of the rotation come the end of May.
I agree.
One quick thing to keep on the doom and gloom theme that we've been going on here, but
I was positive about
but Adam Morgan, man, if you're watching the video, I'm telling you, you better really step it up this year, because guess why? Rob Manfred's changing the rules in 2020. In 2020, when a relief pitcher comes in, they got to get 3 batters out. And since you're a left-handed specialist, dude, and you could barely get out lefties, bro, if you don't step it up this year, you're out of here. So for your sake, I hope you have a tremendous year. All right, back to Mike.
I know that wasn't our most positive little segment here. We were a little more positive before that. The one thing I will say is the themes that have been echoed by everyone here is pretty consistent around baseball. I mean, you look at the Nationals. Obviously, the Nationals have 3 really strong starters. Not everyone can say that. Back of the rotation, you have veterans. You have Anibal Sanchez and Jeremy Hellickson, who's been hanging on for his major league career for the last few years. The Mets, everyone talks about the Mets rotation. I mean, you have DeGrom, who's amazing, and you have Syndergaard, who's great. And then after that, you really, if you want to be honest about it, have 3 question marks. Steven Matz wasn't as good last year as the previous year. Zach Wheeler has injury issues. You got to think about that.
So does Syndergaard.
And the Atlanta Braves, who I think are unbelievably talented. They're an offensive team. I mean, they have 5 question marks in their rotation. Definitely. Julio Teheran is a really good pitcher. Would I feel good with him being my number 1? Probably not. If I'm a great team looking to win the World Series, I'd feel a lot better with him being a 3. So, I mean, that's something that goes on in baseball, and that's something you have to adjust to during the season. And we'll see. There's always surprises. There's always disappointments. Who knows? Maybe one of these guys at the back of the rotation for the Phils surprises and gives you like a half or 3/4 of a great season. Maybe it's one of the kids in the minors. That's something that's always been something that's happened. You look back to 2008. I mean, Jay Happ kind of came up and found his way and really helped the team a lot. And he wasn't even a thought during the season. So we're going to give some predictions here. We're going to give everyone a chance to give some predictions, and then after that, we'll try and answer a couple questions briefly, but don't send them in yet because that chat's just way too much to try and read. So let's. Who wants to go first, guys? Who wants to give their prediction first?
I will.
Ray wants to go first. I have a feeling Ray is going to predict them to win like 81 games. Also, Ray has a Gabe Kapler jersey, and I just want to put that out there. I know he's going to not show it on camera, but he's a huge Gabe Kapler fan, which we didn't get into because I figured Ray could potentially go off on like a 45-minute rant.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you ready?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I think they're going to be improved from last year. Last year they had 80 wins. And I'm going with 86 wins. 6 wins more than last year.
Guys.
Right. And it's basically it's going to be because the offense is going to propel them to get those extra 6 wins. If they had the pitching rotation and if they had the bullpen and if they had the manager, this team could be a 94-win team and get to the World Series. But because they don't have the starting rotation, they don't have a strong bullpen, and they don't have the manager, I have them still improved, which is good, but I have them at 86 wins and not making the playoffs. I have them just missing the playoffs by a hair because of the Mets rotation. If Syndergaard stays healthy all year, and that's a big if Syndergaard stays healthy all year, you know, they have Robinson Cano, they picked up Wilson Ramos, they picked up Jed Lowry, Brandon Nimmo and Conforto. Those guys are good enough players to have good enough offense. With a stellar pitching rotation, is really tough. I have them with 86 wins and possibly maybe 3rd place. I have them at 3rd place. And I know that people are shocked because of all the acquisitions, but pitching is key, and it's going to be rough. I have them 6 more wins than last year, so I don't have them taking a step back. I do have them moving forward, but just missing the playoff.
So Ray's prediction is 86 wins, missing the postseason. Ray, do you have a World Series prediction?
This is going to be a shocker.
Ray says this is going to be a shocker, so I'm guessing his World Series is Twins versus Padres.
Nah.
No, we'll see. We'll find out.
From the American League, I'm going with no shocker here. I'm going with the Yankees. Their pitching is still a little suspect with Severino. I'm not 100% sure with the Yankees, but I think the Red Sox are going to have a slight World Series hangover. If it's not the Yankees, it's going to be the Astros. It's pretty much going to be the Astros or the Yankees. The National League, I stuck with this team a few weeks ago, and I'm going to stick with them. I think the Cubs are going to win the Central Division. I think Bryant is going to have a big comeback year this year. They have a good pitching rotation. They have an excellent manager. I'm going with the Cubs going to the World Series this year. So either Astros, Cubs, or Yankees, Cubs.
So Ray has the Astros or Yankees versus the Cubs in the World Series. The Phillies winning 86 games. So we'll let Ed and Charlie make their Phillies predictions and their World Series predictions.
All right. For my 2019 Philadelphia Phillies, I just told you that the rotation I was iffy on and the bullpen has some issues. I think the offense will be okay. I think we'll have to see what happens when they get to the All-Star break. I do think this team will acquire help at that time, whether it be a starting pitcher or some back-end bullpen help. With that in mind, I am going to have the Phillies as one of the wild card teams. I do not think they are going to win the division. I think they will be the first wild card team. I have them at 88 wins for the year. I think the Nationals will win the division. And I think that the Phillies will be the first wild card team. My World Series this year, if the Phillies acquire a stud pitcher at the All-Star break, that's if, then I can see the World Series being a 10-year reunion back what we had in 2009. Yankees, Phillies, 10 years later, World Series 2019. If the Phillies don't acquire anyone in the All-Star break, I was thinking maybe Yankees, Cubs. But if the Phillies acquire another big-time pitcher or bullpen help, Yankees, Phillies, World Series 2019.
Okay. Now last year I think I was a few wins off on the Phillies. I haven't watched that video in a while, so I don't know the exact number I get, like how far off I was on last year, but I'm going to have the Phillies winning 90 games this year. I'll have them at 90, and I'm going to have them being, I'll say they're going to win the division. I'll go with them winning the division. I'll be the homer on the panel. I'll have them winning it. I do think the NL East is going to be a very good division now. I see the Braves are going to be good, and the Nationals are going to be good, and the Mets with their pitching, they'll be in the thick of things, and then you have the Marlins. Sorry, Cuban Collector. They'll probably be at the bottom. But for World Series prediction, I haven't really looked that over yet, honestly, but when I give a prediction for the World Series, I try to pick teams that normally I try to be a little bold in my prediction for the World Series. I don't want to say the same teams that a lot of other people say. So I'm going to go really outside the box with a World Series matchup that Major League Baseball would hate. ESPN would hate it. But I'm going to go with the Rays versus the Rockies. Super small market World Series, baby. And everyone's going to talk crap about the ratings, but I don't care. It's going to be a fun World Series because you're going to have a great offensive team versus a great pitching team. So, I don't know. That's really outside the box, I feel like. That can either make me look really dumb or really, really smart. So, we'll see. All right, back to Mike.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think because I haven't given any thought to the World Series. Quite honestly, it's a ways off. So I don't know why I asked a question that I wasn't prepared in any way, shape, or form to answer. But Phillies wise, I'm going with 91 wins. I'm feeling pretty optimistic going into the season. I love the offensive additions. I think the bullpen has enough pieces to keep them in it for now. They have enough guys there that they can piece together games. I believe. I think. I'm not as worried about the rotation as everyone else. I'm not in the doomsday scenario Ray is, where I think he thinks the season's over already. But I mean, we'll see. They're not all going to work out, but I think they can bring up guys from within the organization that they've been developing. That's one of their strengths. I'm actually happy they kept Medina, the prospect. I actually, at this point, like him more than Sixto Sanchez, as much as I like the prospects of what Sanchez could be. He definitely worries me health-wise. So I think you could see a bump from a few of the guys in the minors, and I think they have the pieces still to acquire a starter at some point in the season. So I think they will go out and get what they need when they need it. I think they're in it to win it in the next couple years. And I really don't think they're going to sit back and not make a move if it makes sense. I'm not saying they're going to do something stupid for the sake of doing it. 91 wins may or may not win you the division. This division is strong. The Mets are improved. I do think you have to win with that rotation. So we'll see with the Mets. I do think they're a better team. I mean, that's a pitching rotation that helped get that team to the World Series a few years ago, and it's a rotation that if it's not together, they could be a 75, 80 win team. The Braves, I love the Braves. I love Ronald Acuna and everything they have to offer. They're just loaded offensively, but I do think they could be subjected to that kind of sophomore slump with a few players. They do have a shaky rotation, so I mean, we'll see. I think the Braves certainly have the talent to win in the mid-90s, but I could certainly see them winning like 85, 86. I like the Nationals a lot. I think the Nationals, they really don't have any major holes. I think they're solid kind of all around. So we'll see what happens in the division. World Series-wise, who knows? I like the Astros a lot this year. I like the Yankees a lot. The Red Sox are still really good. They won, 108 games last year. The Indians are good, but it's hard to pick a team where their owner's saying silly things, and they've been off to kind of a rough start in terms of injuries. So we'll see. I'll go with Astros Cardinals right now. We'll just throw that out there, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, let's get a few questions real quick. We're running up at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we're supposed to go on with a live sale after this. So we'll get to that shortly for at least briefly. But if you have any questions, get them in now. If you asked a question a while ago, well, it's buried in that comment section. And unfortunately, I'm the only one with access to that, and I can barely see it because I'm looking in between like cords and little stands and stuff like that. Who would you rather have here, Dallas Keuchel or Bumgarner? Ray, who would you rather have, given the choice, Bumgarner or Keuchel?
If I had a choice between Keuchel and Bumgarner, I'd rather have Bumgarner because of his playoff experience. 3 times in the World Series, he's pitched lights out in playoff experience. Keuchel's a good pitcher, and I wouldn't mind having him. But based on just how well Bumgarner has proven in the playoffs, I'd rather have Bumgarner.
All right, and then I'm going to hand this off, and we'll give each of you guys a chance to answer a question. Charlie, did Harper receive too much?
Did Harper receive too much? I am going to say no on that because when you're one of the top players in Major League Baseball, we just saw what Mike Trout got. So I think we can probably all agree that Bryce Harper is a top 5 player in Major League Baseball. So that's the money that he asked for, and the Phillies did not disappoint. They shelled out the money. So stupid money, as John Middleton would say. So I think for that talent, you have to pay. So no, I do not think they overpaid.
Next one's for Ed. Realmuto, big impact on the lineup?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's a no-brainer. I mean, look at what we had. I touched on it earlier. Look what we had last year with Alfaro and Knapp. That's like someone in the Northeast Peanut League going up against someone in the major leagues. That's a huge upgrade, massive upgrade. So.
And then Ed, we'll let you answer. Are the Phillies going to be the Lakers of baseball?
That would be horrible. Who asked that question?
J squared?
No, that would be bad. If I know Mike doesn't really follow basketball much, but the Lakers got LeBron, and everyone penciled them in for making the playoffs and contended with the Warriors, and that did not happen. The Lakers were really bad this year. I guess that's a fair question in regards to the Phillies because they did get the #1 guy in the free agency. But I think what you have to remember, as opposed to the Phillies, as opposed to the Lakers, the Phillies last year were a really good team all the way up until September when they kind of fell off. I mean, you look at the Phillies before September, they were in first place and they were cruising, doing great, and then they just like fell off the cliff in September, playing Fortnite apparently, according to Carlos Santana. Any other ones, Mike?
Maybe we'll give it back to you. We'll see. All right, we have Amish Dave Archer asking, what pitcher realistically, if could get traded, would you want? Just to throw a different name out there, and he might be expensive, but I think Robbie Ray has continued to improve with Arizona. I think he's a lefty that would fit really nicely. Honestly, the pitcher they probably should have acquired was last year, Cole Hamels. The Cubs got him for a middling, low-end prospect, and Hamels was incredible for the Cubs last year. And I'm not saying Hamels is going to pitch necessarily to that level, but I would take a veteran pitcher like Hamels with playoff experience. He'd be perfect for this rotation, especially if he didn't cost much. But that was a missed opportunity that the Phillies did not take advantage of, where they went with a bunch of guys who really didn't help last year. Sports Card Fam, any of you guys give me the best lineup for Philly and why? Ray, what would your ideal lineup be?
For this team?
Yes.
What do I think the lineup's going to be?
Or what do you think it should be if it were up to you and not Gabe Kapler? Which I know you think it should be up to you and not Gabe Kapler. Ray's taking the stance that Gabe Kapler should be fired before opening day, and Ray from Philly should be named permanent manager.
Well, that would be a smart move on the Phillies organization. But I think they should start off Segura because he's a contact hitter and he can hit 300. And you want a contact hitter with that kind of an average to be batting first. After that, I would go with McCutchen because he has a little bit of pop and he can advance the runner. Then after that, Harper third, Hoskins fourth, Realmuto fifth. After that, I think Franco should be one batting sixth. I think he would benefit taking a step down. He was hitting 3-4-5 for years. The pressure would be off of him to go sixth. Then after that, I would do a Dubal seventh and Cesar Hernandez eighth.
So that's Ray's lineup. What was I going to go to after that? Oh, Ray, your buddy Ethan Donnelly says Hamels hit a home run tonight, I guess, in a spring training game. So I wanted to point that out.
All right. What's up, Ethan?
All right. We'll give everyone a chance to answer one more question. Ray, we'll start with you. Thoughts on trending two-way starting pitcher / DH players? We see it with Shohei Ohtani last year. You've got some kids in the minors. Brendan McKay for Tampa Bay. I think he's still got a lot of work to do before he becomes a major league player. But also Matt Davidson apparently is going to be a pitcher and a hitter this year. I don't know if he's making the team. He's actually had an okay few years. Do you have any thoughts on that kind of trend, or do you think it'll continue, or do you think they're just kind of experimenting with it right now?
I don't know if it's going to continue. I mean, it's something that just started. I think eventually it will continue. But I think maybe teams are right now, I think they're a little leery of it because you see what happened with Ohtani with pitching. He got hurt and it limited him from playing. Then he became a DH and they were afraid to play him out in the field. I don't know. I think it's kind of up in the air right now. I think eventually, maybe down the road, you might see more and more, but I think it's going to be a slow progression that you will see that eventually, but I don't think it's going to be something that you're going to see right away with a big splash of like 5 new players like that this year and 10 the next year. I think down the road you will, but I think it'll be a slower progression.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Well, Ray, appreciate you joining us tonight. We're going to wrap it up with a few more questions just real quick. Give these two guys a chance to answer if they think the trend of openers will continue and if you like it.
The trend of openers.
Your beloved Tampa Bay Rays.
When they started, Sergio Romo last year and just had random bullpen pitchers start. I guess it's to, the possibility, let me rest my starters so they don't burn out. It's unorthodox. I don't want to come down on it. I'm sure analytic people probably have the reasons. Me, I'm more of a traditionalist, so I would say I'm not the biggest fan of it.
Ed, what do you think? What, same question? Yeah. Well, when the Rays started doing that, they got a lot of brushback from people around baseball, and also I think the Players Association, saying it wouldn't work, it was a disaster, stupid idea, it was going to destroy their team. And guess what? The Rays won 90 games last year, and they had Blake Snell, the Cy Young Award winner. So my answer to that is it will work for specific teams. Obviously, if you have the starting pitching, you don't need to do that. But if you don't have the starting pitching, it's definitely a option to pursue. It's definitely a strategy that did work for the Rays. It's proven it can work. I know Madison Bumgarner this year had a private meeting with Bruce Bochy, freaking out about that because he didn't want that to happen. So I think if more teams wind up doing that, you're definitely going to see some brushback from starting pitchers, because that's going to wind up hurting players in the pocketbook, especially if it succeeds and winds up doing good. All right, well, that answers that. Any other questions?
The last question we'll take is if the Phillies are in fourth by Memorial Day, let's say 12 games out of first, what would you do? Hypothetical as it may be, if the offense isn't clicking and the staff is slumping.
It's too early.
Okay, I would definitely try to trade Jake Arrieta. That goes without saying. I wanted the Phillies to trade him last year, believe it or not. But I would definitely try to trade away specific pieces and then double down with the guys. I would try to trade Franco, too. I'm assuming if the Phillies are in the shape that they're in, that certain guys probably need to go. Try to trade Cesar Hernandez and play the young guys like Scott Kingery. And you're going to keep Hoskins, obviously. Harper's here for 13 years. He's not going anywhere. But if they start off that poorly, that would really be a huge disappointment. I mean, that would be a gut punch. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Ja?
I don't think they'll start off that bad.
Just to echo what Ed said, if that is the case, then you would have to think about, come the All-Star break, you got to, any way possible, try to trade off some of these pieces, like Cesar Hernandez, anyone willing to take him. Franco, if that's even possible. I know there were some talks last year between him and the Padres, but if they are in fourth, then I think that it's time to bring up younger players just to see what they have and try to get these people that have been here for years. Like Cesar Hernandez has been here for 4 to 5 years now. It's just like, all right, we know what we're going to get. So if it's that bad, then I hope Klentak can work some magic and trade off some of these people.
I'm refraining from answering that question because that would be horrific. We don't want that to happen. We'll see what happens. It's a long season. There's a way to go. I'd rather the Phillies start off slow this year and finish strong, as opposed to last year where they started off strong and went in the absolute toilet there in September. That was painful. But anytime you're watching a baseball game with Jose Bautista at age 58 as your cleanup hitter, you know you're in trouble. So I fully expect more entertaining late season baseball this year. So I'm certainly looking forward to that. I do think the Phillies also, we didn't really touch on the bench, and we're kind of out of time at this point, but I do think they have some pieces there on the bench that they can work in with Scott Kingery, Nick Williams, a guy like Aaron Altair if he's on the team. I know we're all kind of tired of the Aaron Altair experiment, but he has ability. He can play different defensive positions, so we'll see what happens there. I know Mr. Ed there in the back, he's fired up that his boy Andrew Knapp is going to be the backup catcher. He's got another opportunity to go to the Phillies Festival and get his autographed trash can lid. So we'll see if that happens as well. So, Ray, any final thoughts before we exit out?
Yeah, did you guys wanted to do MVP Cy Young predictions for National League, American League?
It sounds like Ray wants to give his MVP and Cy Young Award predictions. So at this point, we've teased everyone. Let's close it out with that. So go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ray. You can start.
All right. Well, for the National League Cy Young, I'm going to pick Steven Strasburg. He's finally going to have a fully healthy season. And
Ray's
win the
going
National
with
League
Steven
Cy Young.
Strasburg to win the National League Cy Young Award.
And the American League Cy Young, I'm going with Chris Sale of the Red Sox.
I was honestly expecting you to say Jose Barrios, but Chris Sale with his
my
new
sleeper
extension,
pick.
another guy who signed an extension.
Yeah. The American League MVP is your boy Mike. I'm going to pick Alex Bregman for the American League MVP. And for the National League MVP, Goldschmidt.
So the MVPs will be Bregman and Paul Goldschmidt. So all these guys getting extensions are going to play out of their mind. Let's hope Bryce Harper is one of these guys who got a big contract that plays out of his mind. So, Ray, once again, appreciate you joining. Appreciate it. So let's let these two guys behind me give their thoughts and then say good night.
The National League MVP, we'll start with that. Chris Bryan. Chris Bryan's going to have a bounce-back year. He's going to have a monster year. I see Chris Bryan hitting 35 homers. I'm really high on him this year. I think he's going to have a great year for the Cubs. My NL Cy Young Award winner, I'm going to go with Patrick Corbin. I think Patrick Corbin is going to have a really good year for the Nationals, and that's why I picked them to win the division. I think that Scherzer-Corbin combo, 1-2, and Strasburg as a number 3. So I think Ray's on to something there. He picked Steven Strasburg, but I'm going to go Corbin. So Patrick Corbin is my NL Cy Young. For the AL MVP, I'm taking a team like Houston who will probably dominate this year. So I'll take Alex Bregman for my AL MVP. I feel like he's been knocking on the door. He's a guy that does not strike out a lot. And and for my AL Cy Young Award winner, I am going to go with we'll go Blake Snell for the second year in a row. When was the last time somebody won back-to-back Cy Young Awards? I don't have it on me, but Blake Snell, I feel, can do it. Ed?
It was funny. I was just looking this over yesterday because I was looking up like betting lines for the MVPs and the Cy Young Award winners. But for the American League Cy Young, I'm going to go with Mike Trout. So that's self-explanatory. I mean, American League MVP, Mike Trout. There, I had my one mess up during the live video. AL MVP, Mike Trout. That's self-explanatory. AL Cy Young, I'm going to go with Blake Snell again. I think he doubles back, which goes back into my World Series prediction. And then over in the National League, my National League MVP is going to be Ronald Acuna. I think he's going to have a huge year. And my National League Cy Young, my bold prediction. Last year was a 3-way race between DeGrom, Scherzer, and Nola. And as much as I want Aaron Nola to win this year, I think the guy that came in 4th place last year is going to win this year, and that was Kyle Freeland, starting pitcher for the Rockies. That is my super bold prediction, Kyle Freeland to win the National League Cy Young Award. Look up his numbers. He had a fantastic year last year. And for the record, I don't think he's going to put up as great as numbers as the other 3 pitchers I mentioned, but I think he'll do enough to win the award, and I think voters will take into consideration him pitching at Coors Field, and that will put him over the edge to win it. So there we go.
Yeah, good luck with most voters even watching a single Rockies game this year. We'll see. We'll see. Good luck. Maybe they'll watch the games they announce. That'll be about it. We'll see what happens. But real quick, I guess we'll go with my picks. American League, Mike Trout, MVP. I don't think the money will affect him one bit. I think he'll have another outstanding season. Of course, there's a lot of competition for that MVP award. Cy Young Award winner out in the American League, we'll go with Garrett Cole. Believe he's in a contract year. The Astros are really good. He should be able to win 20 games possibly. We'll see. National League, who the hell knows? Cy Young Award, we'll go with Max Scherzer again. We'll let him solidify his future spot in the Hall of Fame, since when I referred to him as a potential future Hall of Famer in a video a few months back, I got blasted by a few people who said he was a Hall of Famer, but if you actually go to halloffame.org, he's not in the Hall of Fame, though he is trending that way. And MVP in the National League, I will go with JT Realmuto as he locks himself into a future contract of $25 million a year for 5 or 6 years. So we'll see what happens. Those are my thoughts. Once again, Ray from Philly, Ed Wesker Griff, Charlie 5201 something something. He's a viewer. He'll comment. He'll comment down below. So if you want to subscribe to him in the event that he eventually makes videos, go ahead and do that. Appreciate everyone who's been watching. We've had a lot of interaction, so we appreciate it. Even appreciate the 2 Mets fans that hit that thumbs down button. And we'll talk to you guys next time. Have a great one. Myself and Ed will be back shortly with a brief for sale video. And if you're interested in anything, check that out. And we look forward to doing more videos during the course of the year. We'll be going to some Phillies games. So thanks once again, everyone. Have a great night.